I leaned against the doorframe of my empty living room, the late afternoon sun casting long skeletal shadows across the hardwood. My house, the place I'd shared with Lisa for 15 years, felt like a hollowed-out shell. Outside, the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the low, predatory hum of a white van idling at the curb. Mike Stevens was back. I took a slow sip of lukewarm coffee, watching him through the blinds. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. He sat in that rusted-out van, his phone perched on the dashboard, filming my front door. He was Karen Whitmore's personal attack dog, a man who found purpose in the petty tyranny of an HOA clipboard. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Maria. She knows about the files. Be careful, Robert, she's spiraling. I didn't doubt it. Karen had spent years building a kingdom out of beige siding and manicured lawns. To her, my departure wasn't just a move, it was a desertion. It was a crack in the foundation of her control, and if Karen Whitmore couldn't control you, she would destroy you. I walked to the backyard, my boots crunching on the gravel. In the corner of the garden, tucked away from the prying eyes of the street, was the basil plant. It was lush, vibrant, and smelled like Sunday dinners and Lisa's laughter. It was the only thing I hadn't packed yet. Almost time to go, Lil, I whispered. The peace lasted exactly 6 seconds. The silence was shattered by the screech of tires and the aggressive whoop-whoop of a police siren. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I simply set my coffee mug down on the porch railing and walked toward the front of the house. I counted them as I rounded the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 patrol cars were angled across my driveway, lights strobing red and blue against the white picket fences of Willowbrook. Officers were stepping out, their hands hovering near their belts, faces set in that grim, tactical mask they wear when they think they're heading into a high-risk situation. And there, standing on the sidewalk like a general surveying a battlefield, was Karen. She looked perfect, of course, not a hair out of place, wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than my first truck. She was pointing at my house, her voice rising in a practiced, hysterical vibrato. He's armed, I saw the weapon myself. He's been acting erratically for weeks, vandalizing property, threatening residents. You have to get him out of there before he hurts someone else. I stepped off my porch, hands clearly visible, a faint, tired smile playing on my lips. Afternoon, officers, I said, my voice projecting just enough to carry over the idling engines. Is there a problem, or is Mrs. Whitmore just having another one of her episodes? A young officer, probably not more than 25, stepped forward. His name tag read Miller. He looked nervous. Sir, keep your hands where we can see them. We received a report of a domestic disturbance and a firearm on the premises. A firearm, I repeated, tilting my head. I looked over at Karen. She was smirking now, a sharp, jagged expression that didn't reach her cold eyes. I saw it, Karen shrieked, stepping closer to the officers. He had it yesterday when he was loading his truck. He threatened Mike with it. He said he'd kill us all before he let the HOA take his precious weeds. I let out a short, dry laugh. The firearm she saw was likely a cordless drill, Officer Miller, or perhaps a very aggressive head of kale. As for the threats, I've been recording my front porch 24 hours a day since the vandalism started. Karen's face shifted from triumphant to ashen for a split second before she doubled down. He's lying. He's manipulated the footage. Officer, look at him. He's unstable. He's a danger to this community. Just then, a 5th patrol car pulled up. It didn't have its sirens on. It didn't slide into a tactical position. It parked calmly behind Karen's designer SUV. The door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore the uniform of a sergeant from the precinct 3 towns over. Nathan, my son. The air seemed to get sucked out of the street. Karen froze. The local officers shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the rank on Nathan's shoulders and the cold, professional fury in his eyes. Is there a problem here, Officer Miller? Nathan asked, his voice a low rumble. Miller stammered, Sergeant Thompson, we had a call from the HOA president. She alleged your father was armed and threatening neighbors. Nathan walked past Karen as if she were a piece of discarded litter. He stood next to me, his presence a solid wall of authority. My father hasn't owned a firearm since 1998, Miller, but I was here yesterday, off duty, helping him pack. I was armed. Nathan turned his gaze to Karen. It was the look of a man who had seen real monsters and wasn't impressed by this one. Mrs. Whitmore, filing a false police report is a felony. Using emergency services as a personal harassment tool against a law enforcement family, that's a career-ending mistake. I didn't know he was your son, Karen stammered, her voice losing its edge, becoming thin and reedy. I just saw a man with a gun and... You took photos, didn't you, Karen? I asked, stepping forward. I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen. Because Maria sent me the screenshots of the neighborhood watch group chat you run. You told everyone I was bringing in hired muscle to bypass HOA rules. You even posted a photo of Nathan's badge, calling it a fake he'd bought online to intimidate you. The other officers were looking at each other now. The tension was shifting. They weren't looking at me as a suspect anymore. They were looking at Karen as a liability. That's not all, Nathan said, pulling a manila envelope from the front seat of his car. While you were busy playing detective, Dad and I were doing some actual police work. We spent the last 48 hours with the state auditor's office. It's amazing what happens when you actually look at the maintenance contracts for Willowbrook. Karen's eyes darted toward the white van at the curb. Mike Stevens was already starting his engine, sensing the wind changing direction. Don't bother, Mike, Nathan called out. 2 units are waiting for you at the end of the block. Turns out, running a shell company to embezzle HOA funds is a lot harder when the contractor has an active warrant for identity theft. The color drained from Karen's face so completely she looked like a ghost. She reached for her handbag, the one Maria had filmed at the meeting, but Miller was faster. He stepped into her personal space, his hand resting on his belt. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to need to see inside that bag, Miller said, his voice no longer nervous. This is harassment, she screamed, her composure finally shattering. I am the president of this association. I built this place. You can't do this to me. Section 12 of the bylaws, Karen, I said quietly, leaning against the fence. You should have read them more carefully. The president can be removed immediately upon the discovery of financial malfeasance. And as of 10 minutes ago, the board held an emergency vote via Zoom. You're fired. As Miller reached for the bag, Karen lunged. It wasn't a tactical move. It was the desperate, flailing strike of a cornered animal. The bag fell, and a 5-inch switchblade clattered onto the pavement. The click of handcuffs was the most satisfying sound I'd heard in 3 years. As they led her toward the patrol car, Karen turned, her hair matted with sweat, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated hate. You think you won, Robert. You're leaving, you're losing your home, you have nothing. I looked at Nathan, then back at the house that was no longer mine. I reached down and picked up the small pot containing Lisa's basil. The scent filled the air, sweet and defiant. I'm not losing my home, Karen, I said, my voice calm, confident, and utterly final. I'm just taking the important parts with me. You're the only one staying in a prison you built yourself. I watched them drive away. One by one, the sirens faded into the distance. The neighbors, who had been watching from behind their curtains, began to step out onto their porches. Maria was there, tears in her eyes, waving a small, silent goodbye. I walked to my truck, placed the basil plant in the passenger seat, and climbed in. Nathan leaned against the window, a smirk finally breaking through his professional facade. See you at the new farm, Dad. Count on it, I said. I put the truck in gear and drove out of Willowbrook. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, the road ahead looked perfectly clear. The hospital contract was waiting, the soil was ready, and Karen Whitmore, she was finally exactly where she belonged, behind a gate she couldn't open.